global system collapse and mass arrest proceeding, reset inavailable. The use of the pandemic or infodemic to collapse the current world power structures is proceeding smoothly. Many sources agree. There are multiple reports of mass arrest of elites. Some of these can be confirmed by news reports of leaders like German Chancellor Angela Merkel and UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson being confined because of the coronavirus infections. The world is also about to find out that Angela Merkel is Adolf Hitler's daughter. The Italians, who have been just broken free of German EU control, sent us a copy of the only known picture of Hitler with his daughter Angela. The message reads, "And when you grow up, Angela, destroy all of Europe." Also, the White Dragon Society has contacted the U.S. Navy base at Yokosuka, Japan, to fight war crimes charges against puppet Prime Minister Shinzo Abe for his role in the Fukushima mass murder and other crimes. Multiple critical witnesses, including 2 former prime ministers, will ensure a guilty verdict. This has been made possible by removal of 2 cable agents in Japan like Richard Armitage and Michael Greenberg. Pentagon and CIA sources say Abe, unlike his war criminal grandfather Kishi Nobusuke, will not escape justice. As the Japanese say, Zamamiro. CIA sources in Asia confirm this noting. The man in charge in Japan is on the list to be picked up during this round. The official story will be that he has tested positive for coronavirus and is in self-quarantine. This is the code word being used once the Satanic Arcade members are apprehended. Meanwhile, inside the U.S., it's almost a certainty that it will be a civil war and many will die. CIA sources predict. Here's what Pentagon sources had to say about the ongoing military campaign against the satanic Khazarian mafia in the U.S. As cable underground bases are destroyed by Utah, New York, Idaho, California, and elsewhere, rescued children are getting aboard on the Comfort and Mercy hospital ships protected by Marines. Medical martial law is taking shape as the U.S. President Donald Trump called upon 1 million reserves and recent military retires to active duty. War is being declared on Mexican drug cartels. 5G networks have been returned. FAMA is under military control, and the Pentagon Inspector General is overseeing $2 trillion coronavirus act. Also, as 170,000 indictments are unsealed with mass arrest, there will be blood with casualties from military operations, suicides, and adrenochrome withdrawal. The still brainwashed and sleepwalking shipper will be shocked to learn that over 40,000 children who vanish in the U.S. each year are being tortured to death by the elite in order to harvest a form of adrenaline known as adrenochrome. The fact you can now read about adrenochrome on Wikipedia is a sign that things really are changing. The Khazarian mafia is not giving up without a fight. The White Dragon Society received the following message from them last week. "We have been ruining this planet for thousands of years and we will destroy it rather than giving it up. However, rest assured the WDS has been stopping and will continue to stop their attempts to destroy the planet. The latest gambit, they have been using it to try to trigger a war between the US and China by telling the Americans it was the Chinese who triggered the pandemic and telling the Chinese it was the Americans who did it. The big meme they are pushing in the West is that all trails lead back to the Wuhan biolab. In fact, the outbreak in China can be traced to the Wuxi pharmaceutical corporations in Wuhan, China. But here is the interesting part. Guess who owns Wuxi? It is the Soros Foundation. If you go down the list of companies they own at SAC database below, you will find it as Wuxi Pharmatech Cayman Industries. Maybe someone should compare the U.S. infection spread with his Wuxi American laboratory locations in Texas, Maryland, New Jersey, California, Minnesota, and etc., as the Adler reader who sent us this information suggests. Of course, the Rose Foundations is a front for the Rothschild family and other Khazarian Hongkongers, many of whom are hiding in Switzerland, New Zealand, and the British Virgin Islands, among other places. Now, let us take a look at what our capitalist and Rockefeller-backed man Henry Kissinger has to say about the situation. Many countries' institutions will be perceived as having failed. The reality is the world will never be the same after the coronavirus. It spreads exponential. U.S. cases are doubled every fifth day. At this writing, there is no clue. Medical supplies are insufficient to cope with the widening waves of cases. Intensive care units are on the verge, and beyond, of being overwhelmed. The crisis effort, however vast and necessary, must not crowd out the urgent task of launching a parallel enterprise for the transitions of the post-coronavirus order, a global collaborative vision and program. Marshall Plan and the Manhattan Project, the constructions unleashed by coronavirus is, in the speed and global scale, unlike anything ever known in history. Failure could set the world on fire. Here is how MI6 analyzed Kissinger's widely pushed comments. We are picking up the themes such as fire, savage initiations, etc., all very brutal forms of transmissions into submissions by way of highly traumatic duress. Very MK Ultra CA type stuff. Then we have U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Jerome Adams, who says it's out Pearl Harbor moment, adding it's going to be out 11 September moment. A senior CIA source says there will be a total global collapse within a month, and there a reboot of the entire system. Trump will agree to inject $5 trillion of helicopter money into the economy but won't help. He will release the Nikola Tesla zero-point engineer to American industries, which will be used to start up America again after satanic arc members are rounded up. Another source predicts humanity will rise up against the corruption in the world and all governments will be brought down. It is months away, not years. I believe the wars will be over by July 2020. MI6, for its part, says, we see the pandemic as an attempt to accelerate the total coercive high technology world governments, high-end fascisms, national socialist type stuff. The person who designed the quantum financial system says the financial transition will be migrations away from Socrates' equilibrium to recursive complexities-based central banking. There are two diametrically opposed approaches. The later is a wartime economy deployment. The fundamental change is when off-ledger assets pieces are built in etc. The transition is very similar to a blood transfusion, so the dirty money blood is replaced by clean blood, etc. In extent, he is saying the white hat elite have agreed to implement a system very similar to the extremely successful economic planning agency-based system pioneered by Japan after World War II. It means pushing for exponential growth instead of stability. The British are also saying the Anglo-Saxons, the Five Eyes alliance is in the middle of a strategic multi-dimensional counteroffensive with tactical antidotes and war crimes tribunal outcomes. Outsay the other side better run. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko seems to be more aware than most current world leaders about what is really going on, saying, don't you have the impression that the powers that may would like to reshape the world without a war through its so-called coronavirus psychosis, the infodemic? He also noted the UN is using this infodemic as an excuse to bring 10% of global GDP worth of money to fight the economic consequences of the coronavirus. By the way, for those of you who still think the infodemic is not real, take a close look at the state TV editing to explain why Governor Cuomo needs more ventilators for mannequins like this one. The other earth-shaking news that's being overshadowed by the infodemic is the huge military realignment that is going on. In extent, it makes sense The U.S. military has started pulling out of Afghanistan and large parts of the Middle East. To quote Israeli Mossad linked to Barak, the U.S. left another base in Iraq on Saturday, April the 4th, handing over the big Habib al-Qasim Air Base 74 kilometers west of Baghdad to the Iraqi army. No U.S. troops now remain in the Baghdad region. Instead, it looks like the U.S. is going to grab the world's largest oil reserve, located closer to home in Venezuela. The cover story of this is as follows. Today, the United States is launching enhanced counter-narcotics operation in the Western Hemisphere to protect the American people from the deadly scourge of illegal narcotics, Trump said. We are deploying additional Navy destroyers, combat ships, aircraft, and helicopters, Coast Guard cutters, and Air Force surveillance aircraft, doubling the capabilities in the region. It appears the U.S. has traded Ukraine for Venezuela in order to make this operation possible. Currently, Russia is in full swing preparation for war and preparing to conquer Ukraine, and Trump will not interfere with this, says Russian analyst Bohdan Listia. Trump takes Venezuela and Putin does not interfere. Putin takes Ukraine for himself, and Trump does not interfere with this, he explains. Overall, even if you don't want to use the expression biblical for what is going on, at the very least we are seeing the biggest global changes since World War II. Let's see if they shut down wireless communications this week.